Hello, welcome to another recording where I review someone's game in Zone Poker. This is the same person as the previous video. If you haven't watched it, go check that one out. The person asked for more feedback on more videos, so I will be doing those. I will post a link in the comments to this original video because the person where I'm reviewing the game from actually is commentating on it as well, like explaining his thought process, what he wants to look at, what he wants to be improving on, what his thought process is through your hand. So I have to watch that. I'm not going into this blind, so I have a general idea of what he's planning on doing with it. There's also these notes that he kept here, and I'll go over those first before I go over the video in general. Work on bet sizing or pot button. I think that's fine. You can obviously use pot and half pot to get to the size you want, and then plus and minus it a little bit. I think that's fine. Think about every bet and why I'm making it. That's obviously true, but I think it needs to be expanded a little bit. More like, what's my opponent's range? What is he gonna continue with? What do I have beat? What does he fold? Is this a bluff? Is this a bet for value? So there are 3 reasons to bet, and only 3 reasons. That's for value, you get called by a worse hand. For bluffs, you make better hands fold, or you have nothing at all, and you think it's a good spot to bluff. And that money. So those are the only 3 reasons. Any other reason is derived from those 3. And you actually calculate those things by looking at what does my opponent open with, what did my opponent take this line with, what's his range of hands that he has here, and what does he fold if I bet, or what does he call with when I bet, and do I have that beat. That's basically what you have to do with your betting. And you also base your size on it. Like if it's a draw heavy board, it's likely that your opponent has a draw and you want to bet higher than normal because you want to charge the draws heavier for when they get there. In the long run, then they still would lose money, you would still gain money if they're chasers. So yeah, I think the general idea, think about every bet, is obviously fine. You got to think about your own game, but you got to look at it in a more complex way with ranges, and then seeing if it's for value, for bluffing. But I mean, if you all want to explain that in a single file, can't really do that. Don't bet in the pot if I'm not getting called by worse. That's true. If you're betting for value, don't bet in it if you're not getting called by worse. So that's completely true. If you're betting for a bluff, obviously you just want people to fold. So, but I think the idea behind that is fine. And raise bigger with better hands can be exploded. Now you go through this in the video, and you actually mention something like, yeah, if I go 4x, 5x, less people call, blah 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 blah. And that's true to some extent, but it actually becomes more exploitable. If a decent player notices you going 5x, they're gonna narrow down your range to premium hands. They're gonna say like, okay, he has ace queen plus and queen queen plus, maybe jack jacks, and they're gonna call with even with hands like 5-6 suited, 7-8 suited, like suited connectors, small pocket pairs, maybe 2 undercards, even jack 10, like just connectors, and see a flop, and they know that when they hit their hand, they're gonna get your stack because you have a strong hand or you're repping a strong hand, and they're gonna get paid off if they make their hand. So I think it's more exploitable by decent players. I'm not sure about 5-0 zone poker on Bovada, but if you do this in normal cash game, people are gonna catch on and people are gonna explode the hell out of you. You gotta. So the thing with bet sizing is you gotta merge your ranges. So what I mean with that is, if you open ace king 5x, then you gotta open suited connectors 5x as well, because else people are just gonna know, okay, 5x is that hand, 3x is that hand. Like the 12 cents that I was talking about in a previous video, you always open 17 cents, then all of a sudden you had like a steal and you went 12 cents. people can easily catch on to that into normal cash game. Like, it's fine with zone poker, I think, that 17 and 12 cents, because people have no read on you, it's anonymous. There's not even a name above that where there is a name with zone poker. So people can't even catch on onto that. But if you do it, don't do the same thing in normal cash games. And I think the same holds true for raising higher with better hands. It might be fine in zone poker. I wouldn't advise doing it. If you think it's doable, just do it. But I think it's exploitable in the long run. It's not a good play. Sure, you might get more value, but you're gonna get less action. You're not gonna get a lot of premiums. You actually want to get a lot of value out of your big hands. And I think if you make your bet sizing too big, you're actually looking for folds then, and you're basically saying, I'm not confident enough to play this hand post flop. And if that's the case, just work on your game and they'll come. But I think you should merge your ranges a bit more, and not just be 4 or 5xing your only your premiums, or just do the standard 17 cents or 15 cents or whatever. Anyway, we're gonna go on with the hands here. I'm gonna get myself something to drink here. Just a small second. A6 under gun. Pretty standard fold, I think. It's six-handed, but A6 under gun. 5 people behind us to act. No way we're playing that. Middle position, offsuit king gone as well. Especially with a limper ahead of us. Yeah, it seems that a lot of people in this zone tend to limp. I myself am not a fan of limping unless we have a speculative hand and there's a bunch of limpers before us. But I don't limp often. There's just a part of my play though. I can see the benefit in limping sometimes, and I sometimes do it, but just not often. 3-7 in the big blind. If there's a raise, we fold. And yeah, it explains. So in the previous video, I also mentioned the auto top off, and apparently it's not a feature in Boveda yet, or maybe it's not. So yeah, they have to do it manually. Ace-8 suited would definitely open here. Yep. We have cutoff position, which is fine. And it's a decent hand to see post flop. 9-handed, I would open Ace-8 off even in the cutoff, but that's just 9-handed, of course. 4 deuce off, limper before us, so it's gone. I also might have put a steal, but 4 deuce isn't that great post flop. It's just low. What if you just hit one pair? 10-9 on the button. Wouldn't mind seeing an open if it gets folded to us. There's a limp before. We could raise, but the fold is fine here. Raise is only fine, but the guy has like €1. We just don't have the odds to actually be playing the hand there. Or $1 even. I live in Europe, so for me it's euros. 5-7 off, we fall as well. Pretty standard up until this point. And here we're in the... Oh yeah, okay. So here we're in the big blind with queen 10. We have a min raise open, which I always find shady, because like ace queen, ace king, people are gonna 3x. This is either a monster like aces and people want to raise behind them, or it's a way to see cheap flop with low pockets and suited connectors. Like this spin raise never makes any sense to me. The small blind calls, and we get 1 blind to pay to win 5. I think we have his range beat because he just calls because he assumes you're gonna call, and his range is really wide. And I'm putting his range on like pockets, maybe a monster, but probably pockets and suited connectors. I think we're fine with paying 1 to 5 to see a flop. Like queen 10 is a decent hand, it's 2 Broadway cards. If they're suited, we're definitely calling, but offsuit, I have a hand history on the site where we met, and I mean I call out of the big blind with king 5 suited or king 3 suited or something like that, and I get the guy's entire stack just because there's no way he puts me on that hand. And if you're confident enough with your play post flop, you can call this. Like, I'm fine if you're saying, yeah, I don't have position on this guy, he's gonna see it all the time. It's not a great hand to hit the flop. Well, it often connects. You might have to pay on draws and not get there. You only playing draws in on a 33% hand, something like that. And just gonna cost you money. That's fine. I think a fold here is fine. But I wouldn't mind just calling. We're talking about 3-betting here. I don't think this is a good spot to 3-bet. Our hand definitely, we don't want to play a big pot with this hand, so we don't want to bloat it. So never 3-bet this here. But a call is fine. If you want to fold this, sure. But that's more like not being too confident on your flop play. But paying one big blind to see a flop with this hand seems fine. We do get the odds. We get 1 to 5, so I wouldn't have mind seeing a call here. And then the very next hand, so we fold this. We actually fold this. But I think a call here is fine. Like, you talk about 3-betting here, but there's no way we ever 3-bet this. Because if one calls, we're crushed. We're dominated. We're playing a big pot which we don't want to play, and it's just terrible. So here we have 8-9 off. We fold. Let's see which hand. Oh, I think it's this one. So here we get Queen 10 off. I think it folds around to the dealer button. Guy is AFK or something. Yep. So this is a not really a similar situation, but it's the same hand. It's just the same hand. For some odd reason, there are two people that are not acting here. We get a fold and then a limp from the button. So in this case, we decide to raise it up. I think that's fine. The big blind has any two, so he can fold here or he can call. And this guy just limping is what is it? What is limp with here, right? Like limp and then call. That's just a leak on his part. Definitely a good raise. But if we're confident enough to play Queen 10 here out of position, why didn't we call the one big blind? Like, what if we called the previous time and this flop came, and then we can just check call once. If it non-hard comes, we can lead out on the turn and get some folds. I think it's a solid enough hand to have played the previous time out of the big blind as well. But in this case, the flop hits us. We're ahead of his range often enough to actually make a value bet here. Seeing that you mentioned that it's not that draw heavy board. I mean, there's that it's a dry board. True, there's only one high card. But there's hard draws. There could be a straight draw. There's gut shots. A lot of hands actually connect with that. And if you're in a game where people tend to float more, that's gonna be a hand where you're gonna get a lot of value by people floating with draws. So it looks like a dry board, but there's a lot of draws out there, and you're gonna get a lot of value from draws as well. So the c-bet is fine. Like, you played the hand fine. 6-3 suited, under the gun open, so it's a fold. We're out of position there. If you want to be creative, you can play it in position, but meh. 6-2 off, so standard fold here. Actually, I like the layout of this, like zone poker in general. I don't like Zoom or whatever it's called. Never played it, or I played it once or something, but it's like meh. And then the way the interface is above that, it's pretty nice. King 6, guy opens from the cutoff, but it's 6-hand, so he has us crushed, and our hand isn't that great post flop, so 4-3 off, terrible hand, out of position. Like, if he had position, we might want to play blind on blind, but not this case. 8-6 off, another fold under the gun. just going over the hands here. There's not a lot of really big hands, and I think you play most of them fine. There's just the two queen tens that I'm like, yeah, why do you do it once with one queen ten and then not call one big blind to win 5 with the other one, where we can easily give up the hand on the flop. If we miss, it's an easy fold. If we hit, we can take different lines. If you have a draw, we can take different lines. It's still a small pot. It was only 6 big blind and 30 cents. We have a huge stack. The other guys had a huge stack, so we're pretty deep at that point. So we can get a lot of value. Here we have ace queen, a limper under the gun, and another limper standard raise here. Want to punish limpers as often as we can. And we're gonna get faults from often. People seem to limp way too often here. King 4 suited. So this is a hand. You raise with it, that's fine. But this is a hand I can call with as well. Now okay, so the flop totally hits us because we have an overcard and a heart. In theory, we're willing to get it all in, but probably not. But it's a good flop to lead out. Like, you can rub the jack. It might not hit his range often enough, so we get some faults as well. I think our lead out is fine, and the guy just flats. So we miss. We don't get a backdoor or anything, so we check. If his stack was a bit bigger, I would lead out again. Like, this stack is still fine, but if we like lead out for 50, he calls, pot is €2. We can then get his entire stack when we hit on the river, and we have 9 outs, which is about 20%. If he has one blocker, it's 17 to 20%. So we need 1 to 5. We pay 50 to win €1, €2, €3 in total. Well, 2.97. So we get 1 to 6 with our 50 then. So leading out again is fine. The problem is, if we lead out and he shoves on us, we have to fold then. So I think check calling here, which is the line you took, is actually a good play as well. His bet size is terrible low, and you talk about it like his bet size is low, you get the odds. Even if it goes 50, you get the odds, because if you hit, you have the odds of getting his entire stack. I think 50 might be a bit too much then, like 40, because he isn't gonna pay you off all the time. Let's say 80%. Let's say he has like or he might be on a bluff, so maybe 65% is a bit more realistic. So you gotta calculate in another 65% of his stack to see if you if that's the estimate you have of getting paid on the river if you make your flush. Then you have to calculate in 65% of his stack with the odds when you call this 24 cents. Now this 24 cents, I mean, this is a snap call with a flush draw. There are some reverse implied odds, but they're basically non-existent here. We have the second nuts if you connect. So yeah, we have to make the call here. You're not slow down here. You're just explaining your thought process. Why you would make the call here. And we miss, and a check fold is fine. We can turn our hand to a bluff, but the guy has shown to be willing to commit chips here. He leads like 1/3 of the pot. There's no point in calling here. We already decided on check folding. And I think the hand is played fine. I sometimes take a different line, but that doesn't actually make a lot of difference. And I think check calling on the turn is just as good. Five 10 off, pretty easy folds. So we're in for 5-6 to 1 at this point. Get check 4, that's a gunner. I think this is a hand. No, it's not yet. For the suited, I sometimes defend this from an open from late position, but the guy did it from middle position. The button already called. There's no point in paying or 2 big blinds with a hand. Very speculative, very weird hand to be doing anything with. So I think it's a good fold there to do for. If like just the button opens, we can defend with it. But folding is fine. Like I fold that there so often. King 6, another decent hand to defend with, depending on the action. We raise it up, which is fine. We have decent post-flop equity. If we make our hand, we get a call. We actually hit top pair, so we're gonna continue here. We're gonna get some calls from like jacks, diamonds. So if we get called, we're not necessarily behind. And I think our c-better is good. I think that hand was fine as well. Like king 6 is not only ahead of his range, but you have to think further than just I'm ahead of his range. You actually have to do something with it. So 8-6 suited, great hand, small blind calls, I think. And big blinds 3 bets, 260. Now we have to pay 45 to win 474. We have position. This guy has aggression. It's a draw heavy hand. In zone, I would fold this anytime as well. I think it's not worth the risk to look this guy up and then still have someone behind us to act. Now this guy's range is pretty bad and he's gonna fold often, but I think this is a fine fold. Just want to make a small note here that if you are playing normal poker, like not zone poker but a normal table, keep track of how often this guy 3-bets you when this kind of situation happens, when you lead from the button, you open from the button and the small blind calls, because this is a pretty good spot for him to squeeze, because you're gonna open pretty light and he's gonna call pretty light. So he can be doing this with any 2, and if his statistics show that he does this too often, you can obviously 4-bet here really light as well. And 8-6 has decent post-flop equity and plays really nice on the flop as well. So I'd fold here, you fold here. That's pretty standard with zone poker. But just keep in mind that you gotta keep track of these kind of situations and how often someone acts on them. Because this is a pretty good squeeze spot for him, and he could be doing this with any 2. And if you decide to switch up to normal cash games, you gotta keep track of this. I don't know if Bovda has a hot. If it does, buy one. I mean, it's like a for me it was $60 for Poker Tracker 4. Has definitely been worth it. Not only because it keeps track of things, but you can do reports with it and so on. And it improves your game. It's pretty good. So yeah, fold here, pretty standard. Just want to add that one little point there. 3-5 offsuit, so that should be a fold as well to any open. We're gonna see. Okay, so raise to 7x. Okay, and look at this. Here you mention like raise bigger with better hands can be exploited. Like this has to be a really good hand, right? So either we consider this guy is terrible and he has no clue about bet sizing, so we want to play a pot with him, or he has a really big hand. So we're gonna play 6-7 suited. If you have position, like imagine we're a dealer, we're gonna play suited connectors. We're gonna play low pockets. If we have €5, because we get decent odds. We have position on the guy, and we assume he's either has a big hand and is gonna pay us off, or he's a fish and we cannot play him. So I think doing this, raising bigger with better hands, just isn't a good idea. Do 7, worst hand in the game, despite it being suited, under the gun, open to pot. So that's a pretty standard fold. queen 4 in the cutoff. We have a limper before us, so we fold. We might want to open that, but with a limper before us, we don't want to be playing that hand. 10-3, so that's a fold as well. And it's good that you actually keep stack sizes in mind as well sometimes. Okay, this is a pretty good hand as well. So we have 5-6. You decide to raise it up, which is fine. But so the hand is great post flop, right? Same with the 6-8. So a raise here is fine. We can represent an ace if an ace comes. We thin down the field to probably one caller. Big blind is gonna fold often. The thing is, it's a draw heavy hand. If you just call and this guy calls, we have 20 cents in the pot, which isn't a big pot, but we can lead out, and then if someone raises us, we can call, and we have somewhat of a bigger pot already, and we can actually go for stack sizes. While if we, because our hand is hidden, because the straight would be hidden, flush maybe not so much, but the raise here is fine. I don't dislike the play. I can see a limp there as well. But this is fine because now we have the aggression. So if you get a call, we can bet this and get folds often, like just turn it into a bluff. In this case, we actually hit an open ender and we can rep the king. If this guy has like king queen ace king, he's gonna be like, yeah, this guy has the king as well. He's gonna go for he's just trying to look for value and have him beat. Or maybe he has like king 4 suited and he's like, yeah, flop 2 pair, I have the nuts here, let's just slow roll this guy, and then the 7 comes in or the deuce comes in. It's like, oh, that card doesn't do anything. We're like, yeah, we have a straight dude. So we're gonna get value from a lot of kings, but that's about it. Like, he called, and no, there's also like medium pockets. If he doesn't believe we have a king, he's gonna float with medium pockets as well. But this is definitely a good hand to bet on. We want to increase the we get folds often because we can rep the king. We can turn our hand to a bluff later on, and we get decent amount of folds which happen. So the c-bet there is really good. So the board connected with us, really nice. Deuce 8, I was fold. Ace jack under the gun, 6-handed, so that's an open. So we go 3x. Folds around, right? Or do we get a call here? Oh yeah, we get a call. So we flop a gut shot and one overcard, which might be tainted. The guy checks when his time runs out. So assume that's a bit shady sometimes. We decide to check behind, I think. But we opened. We can definitely rep a king or a queen. We have some redraws with a 10. We have runner flush, third nuts though, but we're gonna get called by some flush draws which we have beat. But we're also gonna get folds from some medium pockets. And I think a bet here would have been fine, just because we have a redraw to Broadway with a 10. Ace, if an ace comes, and he checks, we might want to bet that as well. But I think a bet here is fine, just not for value, because we're not gonna get called by worse often. But just as a standard c-bet here, like king or queen is definitely in our range. Guy has to keep that in mind. It's not in his range that often because it's from the blinds. So he's gonna fold here often enough for us to bet like 20 here. 9 comes in of a spades. It's a scare card. Like Jack 10 got there. Jack 10 got there. Flush got there. We have a redraw to the third nuts flush. And he checks to us again. I think if you didn't see a bet on the flop, this is definitely a card to bet. Like what are we checking behind on the flop, like draws ourselves sometimes, and I think this board is scary enough for him to be folding here even more. But you check behind as well, and then an ace comes. So he checks a third time. We actually hit our ace, and I think we do finally decide to bet here. We are gonna get some calls by queens now, like maybe even like pocket tens will call us as well because we checked here twice. Ace is a bit of a scare card, but I think we're gonna get called by worse often enough here to be betting because we checked twice and then an ace comes, a perfect bluff card for us. Although the 9 was already a perfect bluff card. So yeah, that's basically teen value. You actually mentioned it yourself. It's teen value bet, and we are gonna get called by worse often enough there. For those off, I think this was a fold. Not sure. Yeah, we have an open from the button. No point in defending this here. Check 5 off under the gun. That's a gunner. Fours, pretty decent hand if you're a pre-flop aggressor. So we open with it. I think that's a fine open. We get a call. King 7-6, call from the big blind. It's draw heavy. Our hand might be good enough. Let's see what villain does first. So it checks to us. I think this misses his range often enough. He's gonna float with some flush draws as well. Maybe some straight draws like 8-5, 8-9 could definitely be in his range. We can be repping a king here, so I think this is a good spot to see bet anyway. And we do so. Half pot might be a bit too low because it's draw heavy because of the 7-6 of hearts. Like there's straight draws, there's flush draws. We don't have a blocker. We have a blocker for the 8-5, and there's no possibility that it has 5-4 because we have 2 fours. So I think we want to go a bit heavier, like 20, just in case this guy decides to float with draws. We want to charge him a bit more. If we beat, we beat. We have position, so we can get cheaper to showdown. Here we have ace queen again, limper before us, so we're gonna raise it up. 20 seems fine. I think that's pretty standard what people do. Like they go 3x and then oh yeah, this is a very interesting hand. So go 3x and then we go 3x and then for each limper we add an extra big blind. So in this case we had 1 limper, so 3x becomes 4x, so 20 seems the standard bet size there. Checks to us on this kind of flop, we see bet here, and the guy calls. So board pairs on the deuce, we're not giving him a deuce. And I actually put his range. I always think in ranges, like what does this guy have, what does he call pre-wits, and so on and so on and so on. So the guy limped and then called. I'm putting him on a medium pocket pair, like 8s, 9s, maybe 6s. Suited connectors might have a 7. Ace king is very unlikely, but he's gonna float with some aces, maybe even flush draw aces. Suited connectors with a gut shot like 8-9, 6-8 is definitely in his range. So you're talking here about double barreling. I think it's even betting for some value, because there are a decent amount of draws in his range. We're losing against pocket 8s, pocket 9s, those kind of hands, but we have position. We can rep a king if it comes on the river and make him fold. If we have an overpair, we would bet here as well. Like if we had aces, kings, even jacks, tens, we would barrel on this deuce as well. Like I think a double barrel here is perfect. Which you do. I think it's a great bet there. We're gonna get called by worse hands often enough, mainly drawing hands, and the guy does call. Okay, so there's a 5, and the guy checks to us again. We basically have 2 pair with top kicker now. We have perfect showdown value. We're not gonna get called by worse here again. Like draw hands are gonna mug their hand. Over pairs are gonna call often, and a 7 is gonna call often, and a 5 and a deuce is definitely gonna call here. So there's no more value to gain from draws, and all the rest has us beat. So we split with an ace, and we can chase him away, but that's about it. So a check behind here is fine, which you do. Just waiting for a small second. You're actually explaining it. Okay, he has some aces, we can split here, and so on and so on. Your logic there is fine. And the guy had indeed a draw with a gut shot. Now, if you look at that hand, deuce 7-5, a flush draw and a gut shot. If you think in outs, he has 9 outs, 9 direct outs to the flush, then 3 more outs with a 6 with a gut shot. That's 12 outs. That's 24. That's 48. That's about 50%. And if he counts his 8s and his 9s as outs as well, which in this case is true, that's another 6 outs. So he has 18 outs. That's 36. That's 60. That's 72%. Like, this guy is a huge favorite on that flop with that kind of hand. I'm surprised he doesn't check raise there. Like, and this is a play you need to have in your playbook. If you're in his position there with that kind of hand, check raise. Like, your c-bet range in this case is huge. Like just imagine you're this guy, right? And you're up against this guy out of position with 8-9 suited there. You have 2 overcards, you have a gut shot, and you have a flush draw. Like, just a gut shot and a flush draw puts you in a 50% hand, and you can be the aggressor there. Like, leading out makes no sense, but check raising there is like, hey, and you're repping an overpair there then, but you'd be fine to get it all in against an overpair because you have 12 outs, which is about 50%. If they have a blocker, you're like 46%. Well, actually, I'll put it up here. So it was ace, queen. Basically, we didn't have any blockers against 9-8, and the flop was 7-5 deuce, right? 7 deuce 5 or something. Okay. If you look in equity, this guy is way ahead. Like, look at it. And if you put your range on like aces, kings, queens, jacks, 10s, 9, 8s, all over pairs, and then some ace kings, ace queens, ace jacks, ace 10s might even continue bet. There are some like king jacks that are gonna do this as well. Not that much. If you look at just that range, like, you still have over 50%. Like, his play should have been check raise, because even if you're up against, let's remove 9s and 8s because we have a 9 and 8 ourselves, and we can put the suited ones in. Like, let's just give them all some kind of spade. And double spades is gonna be too greedy for all of them. Like, just give him some spades sometimes. Like twice we're gonna give him double spades, which I think is already a bit too much. So let's apply it and then evaluate. Look, we still have 50% equity there. So I think if he check raises and we fold often with a decent amount of this range, like ace king, ace queen, ace jack, king jack. We're gonna fold. Maybe we're gonna 3-bet him with some overpairs, but even against overpairs, if we just look at that, even against overpairs we have 45%, which is sufficient given the rest of his range. So I think a check raise on his end should have been better. And just looking to get it all in, like you'd be fine getting it all in there, because you usually have enough outs to actually win hands, and there's already that money in the pot. You get faults often enough. Like if I'm in his spot, I'm check raising you there, and if you raise me, I'm just shoving on you. I don't care at that point. By the way, the application I just opened was Equity Lab. If you haven't seen that yet, it's free. It's a great tool to see which percentage you have post flop against which kind of hands, which kind of ranges of hands. So his play there is pretty weak to just check all twice with a monster draw, being gotcha and a flush draw with 2 overcards. I'd be playing that really aggressive. Like leading out makes no sense. You're gonna see better often that kind of flop. So check raising there is the correct play, because we can be wrapping an overpair as well. But we actually have a monster draw, and if you then raise again, like you have like aces and kings, and you raise again, and then I'm like, yeah, fine, whatever, I'm already invested. I'm just gonna shove it all in here. You have to make the decision if I have a set or not, or a draw, and even if it goes all in, you have 12 outs against an overpair, which is enough. So Jack 9 in the small blind. So just a side note, if you were that guy in the previous hand, what to do there. This is actually the same guy there, because he had the same stack. You can actually see people and stack sizes and keep track of that if they are there again in the following hand. Like in that case, it was the same guy, I think, because he had the same stack. But obviously 2 hands isn't great enough of sample size to actually do something with it. Anyway, about that hand with ace queen, I think I played it fine. This one is a bit weird. We are in the big blind. It comes 3 spades. We're gonna check it here. I don't know. I think we can bet it there because there's a bunch of like ace of spades, king of spades, which is gonna call. And then there's a bunch of folds. We have top pair, crab kicker. It's a limp potto. I'm fine with check calling there as well. I don't actually recall if you mentioned anything about it, what you want to do. If let's say he bets, if we just call then. But I think we eventually decide to bet at one point. The 9 is a bit scary because the 7 and the 8 got there, but that's about it. But I think on that kind of board we're getting floated by worse spade draws sometimes. So we do decide to finally lead when the 9 comes. I think this is just like a bluff on our end. We're not valuing our 10 as the best hand once the turn comes. So I don't consider this. It's like a teen value bet. Maybe a semi bluff, but a semi bluff is usually when you have a redraw. So and just folds around. So I think that's a good steal there. Like the 9 doesn't hit often. Our top pair might be good. I think that hand is played fine. There's just a lot of lines to take there because it's a limp pot. Like if we lead out, we can be put on just an ace of spades type of hand, and people are gonna call really light sometimes, or they're gonna call with an ace of spades themselves, and we're still ahead. Like sure, if a 4th spade come, we're out of the hand. There's no way we're ever gonna continue there, but we might just get a showdown. Like might scare the guy as well, and you're just gonna check behind. You never know. So we have like 3 minutes to go. Okay, which probably my time is like 10 minutes, right? 8-7 off. We fold it. Yeah, you're looking at your time as well, apparently. Jack 9 off. Small blind against big blinds. I'd be willing to raise here. You check behind, that's fine. Both is fine. And we flop the nuts. Like, this is absolute nuts. Only Jack beats us, but why the hell would he be willing with Jacks, right? Now he checks. We have the nuts. But you gotta look at the board. Like, what does it connect with? What is he gonna call with? And there's 2 diamonds. It's close to a straight. He could have some gut shots. He might just have like an overcard. He might have like king queen. Although I think his call, like, his range is really wide because of his pre-flop call. And if we bet here, he might just not believe us. Like, if we bet like 5 cents, it seems so bluffy, right? Like, what the hell is 5 cents here? I think I'm willing just to bet here. We decide to check behind, which is fine if you just want to have some value. So we check behind. It seems really weak, and then a king comes. The guy suddenly leads out for pot, right? So he checks on that flop. King comes and it leads out for pot. Makes no sense. And then like, this comes across really bluffy. Like, why the hell would he lead pot all of a sudden when you check that flop? Like, the king doesn't change anything unless he had queen 10. And if he had queen 10, he might have even let out on the flop anyway. On this kind of flop, like some people do, like I often do. Although it's a paired board, so probably not. But and if it's queen 10, we're gonna get it in anyway on the river, because if he leads out on the river and then we raise him there, I think a call here is way better, because if he has a bluff, we might just be calling with a jack and he might be repping a king, or he might be saying, hey, I have the 9, or slow rolling you. So I think this is a bluff way too often to be raising this here. I think we just call and see if he takes another stab at it on the river. You decide to raise here, which I think we're raising here for value, hoping that the king hit him, which is what we're saying. But I think he folds. This is a bluff way too often, and he folds here way too often. That he's just gonna fold this. Like, he's not gonna continue for 20 cents too often with just a king even. And if he had a draw, we should have already bet on the flop. So we didn't bet on the flop, and now suddenly we missed value, a street of value, and we want to get it here or something. Now I think we just call and see if he takes another bluff shot at it on the river, and then we can raise him because we have position. If we didn't have position, I wouldn't mind leading out on the turn ourselves then. Like if the rolls were reversed, I understand to check on the flop and then bet of us on the turn. But in this case, I don't like the raise. I think we get folds way too often, and we actually want to get calls. Want to keep his bluffs in, and we can get more value out of him on the river if he does have a hand. Like, we're only gonna get called by kings, by a king, by a jack, and a 9, maybe a straight draw, maybe a diamond draw. Like only the diamond draw didn't get there with the king. Like, okay, 10-8 didn't get there, but whatever. We can still make him get there if we get to see a river. And I think I like a call here way more than just a raise, because he's so likely to fold there, right? His range is huge because of his pre-flop call. We didn't bet on the flop, which is fine, but don't take this line. Then just call here, keep his bluffs in, and maybe he takes another stab at it. He might put us on a jack, he might put us on the king itself, and then if an ace comes, he might bet it. If an 8 comes, he might bet it. If a 10 comes, he might look at it, hey, it's a great bluff card. If a diamond comes, hey, it's a great bluff card. The guy's gonna bet a bunch of rivers as well, and we're gonna get more value that way, and we're gonna get way more folds than we want to, because this is a race for value, right? Like, there's no way we're bluffing with a full house. But he's gonna fold there way too often. Like, just call and see what he does in the river. If he checks on the river, we can still bet 20 cents and get it there. If he has something, we're gonna get it in on the river anyway, or gonna get value on the river anyway. There's no point in bluffing there. Oh, there's no point in raising there. Because, okay, and you have that here. Think about every bet and why I'm making it. Like, think about why you're raising, but then go way more deeper in it. Like, you're raising for value, I get that. You're raising for value, hope he has a king. But you gotta think about it differently. You gotta think in ranges, and that's where this kind of program is great, right? You can look at it. You can even put it on a second screen if you have one, and have like, this guy is pre-flop. He is gonna limp. He limped. He's gonna do that with about 40% of his range, which is about this. As you can see, there's a bunch of kings in there. Some jacks, but not too many. Like, yeah, jacks and probably aren't in there. Like, he would raise those. Like it's the bottom end, but oh yeah, we can do that like this, right? It's the bottom end of his range, like the middle. Something like this. So yeah, you can check it out, like with this kind of tool, like what kind of range does he have there, and you can have an idea about what he's actually calling you with, what is actually folding there. And I think we get folds way too often by hands. So we raise for value, but we're not gonna get a lot of value because he folds way too often. So if you think about every bet and why I'm making it, yeah, we're raising for value, but we're not gonna get value. We're gonna get more value if we just call, and because it keeps in all his bluffs. It keeps in all his weak draws because his draws are worthless. If a king comes, we might be crying a little bit, but the pot isn't that big then, and we're just gonna call it off. And any other kind of hand, like if an ace comes, he might bluff it. If diamond comes, he might bluff it. There's a bunch of cards he's gonna bluff. There's a bunch of hands he's gonna bluff with. There's a bunch of hands he's gonna connect with on the river sometimes. And if you wanna raise for value there with the 20 cents, we're gonna get that 20 cents anyway. We can make that bet on the river anyway because we have position. So I really don't like that raise. It's just gonna get folded so often, but I already explained that. Ace 10 out of the small blind under the gun open. We can call here. We're ahead of his range often enough. The problem with a hand like Ace 10 is that we're gonna be check calling often. I think a fold is fine. Like I sometimes do it on the tight side as well and just fold at Ace 10 there, because what you do pre-flop, you have to keep in mind what you want to do post-flop. I mentioned that in a previous video. So if we hit our ace, we have no clue where we are. We're just gonna check call to keep the pot small and pay off a bigger raise. If we hit our 10, we still don't have that great of an idea. We're still out of position. So we're just gonna check call. Anyway, outside of us hitting an ace and a 10, we're gonna check call most of the time. I think folding there is fine, especially with someone behind us still to act and having a perfect position to make a squeeze play then. So like it seems on the tight side to fold ace 10, but it's a fine fold. So we decided to quit here. That's the end of the video. So we actually we ended at 658. We bought in for 561 because our initial was 5 and then 61 for rebuy. So that's about $1. $1 divided by 5 is 20 big blinds. 20 big blinds in 20 minutes is 1 big blind per minute. I actually haven't kept count on the amount of hands, but this is definitely good. Like if you can keep this up, like even at this level play, if you can keep this up, you're a winning player. Like average player has 8 big blinds per 100 hands. Like you're definitely ahead of that. Sure, we had some run good, I guess, but you also had I think you played solid. I think you played fine here. There are some small things still to improve on, but overall it was fine. Hope you learned something from this, and I hope you other viewers obviously liked it as well, and I'll see you guys for the next one.